Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Everyday Adventure podcast. We're pumped that you're listening, and we're excited for this episode. What are we talking about today, Megan?
Today, we're talking about developing resilience.
Did you have to look at your notes?
I did, but it's because I couldn't remember if it was develop or developing, and so...
That's fair. Fair.
I wanted to get it right. It's in the book.
We can say it in both ways, though, because we're either developing it or it's been developed or...
Right.
You're
right.
But thank you for your meticulous attention to detail. So that's right, though. We were talking about developing resilience and what that means in kind of the whole story of everyday adventure and what it means to live a life of everyday adventure. But before we get into that, we're going to kick it off today with our celebration anticipation moment. Why do we do this, Megan?
We do this because it's important. It's important to look...
Just end right there.
Yeah, that's it. But it's important to... look forward to something, and I think a lot of times it's easy to look forward to like the big moments in life, but there's a lot more to anticipate in life if you're just intentional to think about it. And so we take time to celebrate what we've been doing and what has happened, but also to look forward to today or even a couple days from now, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and so the more you anticipate, the more you celebrate. And so do this with us at home. Think about something, be intentional about this, and also if you haven't already, join the Everyday Adventure broadcast channel. You can find it at my page, Stephen Glosser, or Everyday Adventure. And there, we'll just have like little polls every week where you can share what you're looking forward to, what you're celebrating. So, Megan, what are you celebrating this week?
This week I'm celebrating, so we had our young adult conference.
Yeah.
And yeah, you were a speaker. You came back as a speaker. That was big. How did it feel to not be in the planning side behind the scenes of a conference?
It was fantastic. I love event planning or take that back.
Take it back.
I like event leading.
Yeah. There it is.
And I loved doing it with you. Like you were the best partner in crime to do events with. And so I missed like that, but at the same time, I launched the book and we're in the middle of Giving Hearts Day with Valley Christian. And so all of those things, I wasn't really thinking about like, oh, I wonder, how I could lead this, you know?
And I'm going to throw you under the bus. Last year, you helped with Rhythm Conference. We were on staff together. Yeah. And we were at the after party Saturday night, which was like 10 o'clock. And you just look at me and you go, Kevin hasn't gone out in over 12 hours. And so, this year I think Kevin's liking Rhythm because he didn't almost have accidents all day long.
Yeah. Last year I went early in the morning. It was longer than 12 hours.
Yeah, I think so too.
And
I was trying to give you some grace.
I apologize to Kevin. Kevin's fine. He's still alive. So like it wasn't that big of a deal, but you're celebrating Rhythm.
Yeah, I'm celebrating Rhythm. It was an awesome weekend. We're still hearing stories from it. And, we move on to the next event here, but it was a great time. So you are anticipating something really awesome.
I am. I'm looking forward. I know this is sometimes like the place where we look forward to something really close and really like in our everyday lives. But right now, the Bob Goff writing retreat is right around the corner when we're recording this. And so I'm super excited. Just been a dream to honestly meet Bob, but also to go through his writing course. And he's somebody that I really look up to as a person. He's the most quoted person in Everyday Adventure for sure, outside of the Bible. But also on top of that, like his writing style, like the way that he writes, he was like, I would say one of the first authors that I started to follow. Like I read good books, but then I read his book, Love Does, and I was like, I want to read everything that he ever writes, just because I was really captivated by it. And so I'm really excited to just kind of lean in a little bit more to that. Like I've felt that his style is kind of what I'm trying to do, and so that's what I'm looking forward to. It's going to be awesome. I know this is the last recorded episode that we're recording before your big trip, which is part of why we're so far ahead right now. But just super excited for that opportunity. It's going to be awesome. But before we like really dive into the content, I do still think we need to continue to allow the audience to get to know us a little bit. So we're going to do a little lightning round. We're going to have some fun with it. I kind of went with like you're going on your trip and, adventure. So I went with like more of a travel theme today. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. First question is this: is mountains or beach?
Mountains.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's easy. I'll answer it as soon as you answer it. Yeah, mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, overpacker or minimalist?
Minimalist. I pack just enough to get by.
Okay.
Maybe a slight oversight, but
Yeah.
what about you?
In my heart, a minimalist, but in practice, an overpacker.
Yeah, I'm an overpacker with books. I have
Fair,
a
yeah.
lot of I don't know, confidence in myself on vacation.
I'm an overpacker in underwear. Nothing has ever happened, but I have underconfidence in my ability to keep it together. And so yeah, that's part of it. But I typically like I will get it down. I will stuff the bag like that I'm doing. So that's my problem. But window seat or aisle?
Window seat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're on like a plane, and have you ever had it where you sit in between the two windows, then you just have like the wall of the airplane?
Oh yeah.
And it's just like
That's really disappointing. Yeah.
bummer.
No, I get, yeah. I know. I don't mind. I've come to not mind either. Like I would prefer the window, but the aisle is kind of a little more spacious.
Yeah.
All right. Are you an this is funny itinerary person or a wing it person?
I would really like to say wing it, but we know that's not who I am. I do think I'm as long as we have one thing planned a day, I don't want it mapped out every minute, every hour. That's not how I like vacationing, but I like to know that we're going to do something.
Yeah, that's fair.
What about you?
I would call myself a hybrid.
Okay.
You know, like I feel I do like an itinerary to an extent. Like I like to know just the bare minimum, but I have become much more chill on like trips and vacations. So the more ambiguity, probably the more planning. But if I'm just like in the mountains or something, I'm like, I just want to wander, you know, and I want to hit the few spots that I'm supposed to hit. All right. After a trip, do you unpack immediately or live out of the suitcase?
Unpack immediately. It goes right in the laundry.
Okay. How about on the trip?
Oh, on the trip.
I think that's what I meant.
Oh, sorry.
No, I asked it wrong.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you're right. You asked it wrong. No, I heard something. I read a book once anyway, and it said if you stay anywhere longer than 2 days, unpack. Be where your feet are. And so it was like be in the moment.
That's fair. I like that.
Yeah, and so I always unpack if I'm longer than 2 days.
I have become an unpacker, put in the drawers, and then I was just at a conference and I left it in the drawers. And so I had to call like the conference organizer and be like, hey, can you have somebody break into my room?
Your 18 pairs of underwear that you overpacked.
Yeah. They're probably like, why are there so many underwear here? He was here for a day.
That's so funny.
Oh, that's fair. Get to the airport early or sprint to the gate?
I don't think I'm either, but I will not get there 3 hours early.
Yeah.
I used to travel for my job, and so I got really good at getting there and going right to my gate with like 10 minutes before.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm actually, that's one that even though I have TSA pre-check.
Oh, we know you have TSA pre-check. You left our entire team in the back of the line.
This is a great question for the audience. This is like a moral question.
Okay,
it's kind of like the train question, you know?
Ask it because you'll be wrong.
Okay, so went on a missions trip with 12 people, and I had TSA pre-check. And so we got to the airport, and I used the TSA pre-check that I paid for to go through the quick lane, and then I got ahead, and I waited for the team. I pet a dog. I explored things a little bit. I had about 45 minutes to myself.
You like fully hung out in the airport.
Yeah, and the team got mad at me that I used my TSA pre-check and I didn't suffer with them in the line. I would love to hear your thoughts on, did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? And why did I do the right thing?
Oh, am I allowed a counter argument?
You can counter argument.
Because I would say that part of a missions trip is the bonding and the experience. You missed out on intentional conversation, like good conversation with everyone. And
what did you guys talk about?
We equally suffered.
What did you guys talk about?
I can't remember. That's not the point. The point is that you missed an opportunity.
Okay.
But anyway,
Fair
it's
enough.
okay. I'm letting it go. Taylor, we're going on a trip. Taylor did say she's using her TSA pre-check on me, and
yeah,
she's not waiting for me. So
fair enough.
You're match made in heaven.
I know. We have a low moral compass. Okay. Hardest physical thing you've ever done?
Ran a 10K last year.
Nice. Mm-hmm. This, I don't really know. There's something called the Manitou Incline in like the I think it's Phoenix, Arizona area, and it's just like a steep staircase. I would say that's the hardest thing. We were on a bachelor trip and we were literally like, let's just do it, you know, fun little afternoon. We went to church. We're like, let's do it. That sounds fun. And we were all just wiped because it's literally just like a mile long staircase.
I actually want to change my answer.
Okay.
I did a CrossFit competition with no
That's right. I remember
with
this.
no training prior. I'd never done a CrossFit
Which is
workout.
amazing.
And Matt, my brother, really, he had a team
Yeah.
and he wanted me to do it. And he was like, please just be on my team. And I said, fine, but then I'll never do CrossFit again. And I was in tears in one of the workouts. Matt talks about it. He's like, this was a low for me as a brother, watching you like on the verge of tears trying to do this workout. And it was just hard.
Well, way to do it. Way to try it. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Yeah.
All right, last one. Something you almost quit, but you didn't.
I'll give the 10K answer. I originally was training for the half, and I had such bad knee pain training, and I was just like, this is miserable. So I almost didn't do it at all because I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I dropped to the 10K and then felt embarrassed, but I did it anyway.
Way to go.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you. I was going to say the half marathon, but I didn't do it. So that's just something
You just quit.
But I would say the book. Like, again, I think maybe in the back of my mind, I was like, I will do it someday. But there's many times that I quit for a season. Like I would be like, this is too hard. I'm too busy. I just don't know what to say. You know, like I would just, and so I put it down many, many times for years at a time at sometimes. So I would say the book is one of them. So that's our speed round. I know that was probably longer than we anticipated it being, but it was also fun. So
Yeah. Well,
no regrets.
No regrets. I'm intrigued by you saying like you quit the book because I also think the podcast is coming out at a time like the book's done, and so people that are listening today maybe didn't see the 10-year buildup. So why did you almost quit? What was hard about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think every like great thing where there's resistance, there's an opportunity to quit, you know? And I think writing a book, there's a lot of resistance, you know, just words, resistance, you know. I mean, I words come naturally, and I've prior to that, I was writing pretty consistently, whether I was in blogs or writing for work or writing sermons or whatever. But then just to like organize all those thoughts into one direction. And so then there's sometimes where I would like read something and just kind of feel insecure, you know, like almost like an imposter, you know. So I'd read something I wrote and be like, this guy can't write a book. And so I think I dealt with, especially early on, a lot of that. And then another part of it, and I've talked about it on the podcast before, was just feeling that I wasn't really living out what I was speaking. And so there was just times where the idea was great, but then like the practice in my own life. And so I think that was part of it too, was just like whether that was the insecurity or wisdom, you know, to just hold off. So I think that was part of it. But yeah, just life, you know, having kids and moving and, you know, changing jobs and being in full-time ministry as there is flexibility with that, which I was always grateful for. There's also a lot of emotional energy that's being used at all times, you know, when you're leading groups of people. And so even though I had time, it was just like that time was hard to like save for another really emotionally draining and, you know, creatively intensive project. So I think those were some of the reasons, but also grateful to persevere, which is, I guess, why we're talking about this, because what we're talking about today is developing resilience. And if you haven't read the book yet and haven't picked up this part of the book, it's where we kind of go from intentionality and resisting complacency. And now it's kind of like, at times it felt like it didn't fully fit. But when I really thought about what adventure is keeping going. Like adventure is, like I write in the book, refusing to quit and remaining fixed and having your focus fixed on what you're accomplishing and what you're trying to do. And so all the great adventurers, you know, they are known because they kept going when it got really hard. And so in the everyday sense, that was kind of something that I knew I was supposed to write about, was like this whole idea of, I think this is where, honestly, this is where it separates from, you know, everyday adventure is just kind of like this chasing butterflies and rainbows idea of like every day is fun, every day find joy in every moment. And then I think it becomes like, okay, that's not easy, and that's not always the way it is. And people that you love hurt you, and you lose people that you love, and jobs that you thought you were going to work at forever are suddenly no longer in your path, and like all of these things happen. And I think this is where the question of, can I still live a life of everyday adventure when life is hard, when things don't go the way I planned? And I think that's why this part fits so naturally into the book.
So yeah, that was super good. So what made you?
Thank you.
You're welcome. What made you persevere? Like, what changed for you to say, like, I'm not gonna quit this? I'm like, we're gonna talk about quiet quitting and kind of just like letting it go on the back burner. But what made you say, like, I'm going all in, and made it like change your focus?
I think a combo of things. Like, I think there was just a natural, like, I have set out to do this, I want to do this. And I think obviously as I started to write about this topic, it became very clear that I had a path of quitting, in my past. And I will say there's like a couple moments like the marathon or whatever, but the quitting that I was reflecting on and I wrote about in the book was like this form of pre-quitting. Was I quit before there was anything at stake. I quit before anything was known. I quit basketball before the tryouts because I had this fear that I'm not good enough and I'm going to get cut. I stopped playing baseball because I didn't feel like, like I added up. And a lot of that was internal, and I've come to realize that. And those are some of like the quote unquote regrets. And if you don't know my opinion of regrets, I think they're awesome, because they can lead to something great. They can lead to, I don't want to go back that path. Don't live in them. But, so I think it was partially that was just like realizing like, this is an opportunity to press on where other times I've gone silent. So like with the book, that was a big part of why I told certain people at certain points. And then around 2 years ago, I told everybody. I went public with it. I also thought I was going to be done way sooner. Right. I thought I was like really close, and I was like, oh crap, I'm not. But that put something in it where there's now stake at it. Like prior to that, 99.9% of the world that's a bad statistic because that's still very much what's happening. But of my community would have never known that I didn't write a book. But now they know if I don't do it, that I was going to, and I didn't do it. So I think that was part of it. And then I think just recognizing, and a lot of what I've been feeling these last couple of weeks since the book has come out, of people sending me quotes and people sharing things that they're taking away. I've gotten pictures of people with tears on their cheeks. Like, I think that was part of it, was just realizing like, I do believe in this message, and I do believe that it can impact somebody's life, and that somebody can wake up from autopilot and live with intentionality and purpose right where they're at. And so I think it was a combo of those things.
Yeah. I think a common problem with like it being so hard to be resilient is just like the resistance of it. Like it's hard to be resilient.
Yeah.
Like there's other things that take your attention or like buy your time that make it easier to choose to not live an everyday adventure. But what would you say about like the resistance piece of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, like resilience is the difference between like a moment of adventure and a life of adventure. I would say this is why there's so many people in their 20s that when you just like zoom in on that part, it's like very adventurous. They go on trips with their friends, they get a job and they do different things on weekends. And then if you fast forward 10 years, a vast majority of those same people are living the lives that they always like dreaded, like that motivated them to like YOLO, like I'm
right.
gonna like, and then they're in that place and they're miserable and they're sad, like they're longing for what was. And if you haven't picked up, this has nothing to do about skydiving, and this has nothing to do with like fixing your budget so that you can travel every weekend. Like it has nothing to do with that. Not that I'm opposed to those things. Like I love traveling and I love being able to do things, and I know you're the same way. Like experiences are a big deal, but there's, to every one of those big extraordinary experiences, there's 10,000 little experiences that we have the opportunity of missing. And so again, with resilience, resilience is only present in the face of resistance. You know, like we don't need resilience when things easy. When we are in the current and it's just moving fast, like we don't need resilience. A lot of times we don't need resilience in different seasons of our life because mom and dad are cooking me meals and mom and dad are paying for everything, and then you just hit a point in your life where there's resistance. And so why I believe this message resonates so much with people in my age and post college and even college is because this is the first time we're really hitting consistent resistance, where, you know, resistance to purpose or resistance to the life that we dreamed of or resistance to whatever that is. You know, I've got bills to pay, and that trip I wanted to go on, I have a choice. Like I could put it on my credit card and go into debt or not. Like, and then I have the resistance of that debt. And so there's just so much resistance that I think that's where resilience becomes present. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I mean, I'm also in my early 20s. And so
shout out to the early 20s.
Shout out to the young people of the podcast. I think that it's interesting.
Also, shout out to the old people. Gee, Megan,
right,
that was like super.
Sorry.
God, you're in your early 20s and you're like, I hate old people.
Okay. All right. Don't nobody take his word for that. I just think that like it's interesting because I think I'm in the season where everyone around me is YOLO of life. Like it's just like you do whatever and you'll make up the money later, and one day I'll work my 9 to 5 every single day and I'll like you know, get caught into the spiral that like of just normal life. And so it's interesting to talk about the resistance because I don't know if I've fully experienced it yet, but it's almost like this anticipation of it will become harder.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing is like, I never want a young person to be like that. I'm just like the guy that life's going to suck.
No,
kid.
okay, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. But I think
life's going to suck. Get ready for it.
No. Okay. That's not what I meant. I meant like there's like I don't know, like I think it's just important to pull the blinders off sometimes of hey, like this is going to be hard, but it doesn't have to be the way because it's just the way that you've seen it modeled before.
Well, I'll say this. The attitudes towards work and towards relationships are being formed for you right now. Mm-hmm. And they're going to continue to be formed, but like a lot of your views of work are being shaped now. Mm-hmm. And so when you're in your 40s, you know, the way that you start to adopt a mindset towards work is going to be really more cemented by that point. And so that's why I think I have like a heart for college students and young adults. And even when I was a college pastor, like this was a big part of my heart was like, as much as I wanted to see our campus reached and like wanted students to come to know Jesus, like that was a huge part of what that was. But also like for me, it was, I could see 10 years down the road and I really wanted to help them thrive in that season. I really wanted to help them, you know, make decisions that would shape their marriages and even before they had them. And so, so I think that, and I think just in general, there's been like the topic of resilience has been a hot button topic for quite a while, amongst, you know, Americans and young Americans. Is just like, there's a lot of studies that show like my generation and even below just lack the resilience of the previous generations. And you think about just like the grit your teeth and bear it, get it done. And I think that doesn't mean that it led to like happiness by any means. But I think, you know, again, I just had a life that whether it was technology usage or just like the parenting styles of previous generations to like there's a shift in our parents, and millennial parents are obviously really catering towards like that helicopter style of parenting and protection and keeping safety. But I would say like I was in the early stages of that. And so resilience has been like this hot button topic that we lack it generally or genuinely. And so for me, one of my biggest like desires is to help people build that into their everyday life. And so that's kind of why I think this part of the book makes sense, because when you do meet resistance, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but when you do meet resistance, resilience is what will get you through it. Resilience is what will have you keep showing up. Resilience is when your marriage gets tough. And that's why the everyday side of this is so real to me, because when marriage gets hard and it goes from the honeymoon phase, as they talk about, to like, real life, like we're making financial decisions and we've experienced loss. Like resilience is what keeps choosing, like, I'm going to choose this person. I'm going to choose to honor them and love them and serve them. And friendships, friendships get really challenging, like just to have them. And so resilience is what keeps you showing up and makes you sit by somebody new at church and takes you out of your comfort zone to join a small group, even though it's inconvenient, because I want to be where friends are. And so I think that's kind of the heartbeat here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all experienced resilience in some way, either like wanting to not persevere, like, we quit something when it gets hard, or we know what it's like to persevere, and to keep powering through. But how would you encourage someone? I know this is it's part 3 of your book is developing resilience. So what are like some practical ways that you actually can develop this resilience?
Yeah, I mean, so the book, there's 3 chapters. Lighten your load, which is really all about a big part of why it's hard. And this is like an adventure thing in itself. But I mean, I remember going on a backpacking trip, and the guys that I was with, their bags were like 35 pounds or lighter, and mine was 55 plus. And they're like, you're going to not have fun. And for me, it was just like, I had older bag. They had bought like ultralight gear and they packed light, and I'm an overpacker. So I had like 4 undies. They're like, you're going to wear the same pair every day, even if you poop yourself. Like, I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't realize. And so like to go far, you do have to lighten the load, and we carry these emotional things. We carry baggage, and I'm excited for next week's episode with Jason Van Ruler. Like that's what we're going to talk about more. But fixing our focus, like making sure we're continuing, like I said, part of the book was reminding myself that people are going to read this someday, and I believe in this message. So I need to stay focused on that, even though it's hard, and then refusing to quit. I think the biggest, there's like there's some different studies on marriage, of like marriages that last, the qualities that led to it. And of course there's some that you'd expect, love and honor, but one of them is just like a refusal to quit. Like, I will not go there, And so I think in life in general, we do have to have that persistence of just like, no, I'm going to keep moving, even if it's on my hands and knees. I write about the story of Hugh Glass, which is captured in The Revenant, and there's debate of what's true, what was fabricated, but in general, the belief is that he crawled 200 miles, mostly on his hands and his feet, after being buried alive, after being mauled by a bear, to get to safety. And I take that, and I'm like, how many of us just give up, I mean, I would for sure in that particular situation.
Okay, I wasn't going to say it.
But, and the cool thing about that story is that he's motivated by revenge and getting back at the people that abandoned him and left him, all for the story to go that he actually gets there and he forgives them and walks away. And like, it's in that journey of perseverance that we actually come to grips with like what we want and what we don't want, and who we are and who we don't want to be. And so I think that those kind of 3 big things, lightening our load, fixing our focus, and then refusing to quit is a little bit of how to develop that. And there's nuanced ways to get into that, but I think those are just a few of the overviews.
Yeah, well, and I think something that's really relatable to what you've spoken to a couple times now is like the pre-quitting. It's the quitting before you really needed to quit, And so what does that look like for you in your life, or how do you relate to that idea of quitting before you got started, really?
I mean, I think in general, a lot of this, whether it's this chapter or just this conversation, has to do with, in some way, with failure, and how we frame it and how we view it. And so, yeah, pre-quitting to me is quitting before it can be qualified as quitting. Quitting basketball as a sophomore in high school would have been trying out, making the team, and then quitting, because I'm not getting playing time, or it's too hard. I don't want to keep doing it. What I did was, looked at everybody, measured myself up. I was going to like the preseason workouts, and just for whatever reason, no conversation with the coach. I was shorter than a lot of the guys. I just felt like I wasn't as good. And so I just decided like I'm not going to try out. And I created this story that I wanted to prepare for baseball season, and I was going to lift and work out and do all these things to be ready for baseball. And that was just PR, you know. I was a PR before I was in PR. Like I was just like, and people believed it, but I didn't. And I think to this day, or to the point where I started to reflect on this, I realized like, man, there's been this pattern for me of avoiding difficult things. And I think a couple of them were relational things, you know, were like there was relationships that had dissipated and have fallen off because I was too afraid to have a conversation that might have jeopardized it at the time, realizing that like the disconnection of our heart had already taken place. And so there's just been so many times in my life that I threw in the towel, but in a safe way, because I was afraid of failure. And I really, you know, I was in a job interview in college, and the question was, you know, tell me something that you failed at and what you learned from it. And I froze. And I'm not saying because I'm perfect, like, you know, I've never failed. No, it was because I had never tried at something that was worth anything. Like I had never tried at anything that there was risk of failure. Like I did the things that I knew I could do. I took the jobs that I knew I would get. I went for the teams that I knew I could make. I went for the relation, you know, like everything about it. I didn't invite people to youth group because I didn't want them to not come and to view me as a weirdo, you know? Yeah. And so like, it was just a trail of that taking place. And so I think for me, a lot of this has been unearthing some paths in my life and then going like, man, how do I position myself now? And so, I mean, it's been a Eleanor Roosevelt talks about like doing one hard thing or doing one thing every day that scares you. And so it's been like a conscious effort to be more public with decisions and with like projects and with goals, because for me, that's a healthy motivator is when I'm not in isolation and people know that I'm doing it. Like this book, the last 2 years was people being like, when's the book coming? When's the book coming? And as much as it was nice when there was nobody asking me that, it was something that was like really convicting and helped me move forward with it. And so I think it's in relation to phone calls I've made and DMs I've sent and just things that I've done to position myself and to put myself out there in ways that I would have never done 5 years ago because I would have been afraid at failing at it or at, just kind of being pushed aside. So I think it's been a lot of that.
Well, I think that I just want to touch on that a little bit because I think there's the pre-quitting of quitting before anything, but I think there's also quiet quitting, which is really easy to do or easier to do, that you just stop something without really telling anyone that you had ever started it. And I think that you could have done that with the book, you know, and instead you went public with it. But what does like quiet quitting look like in someone's life?
Well, I would say quiet quitting is actually, so it's actually defined in like kind of more of a work setting, but it's when you continue to collect a paycheck without putting any emotional or over the top effort. And so in the work setting, it is when you stay at your job, you don't put in your resignation, but you resignate like your effort and your desire to perform well. And so you just do the bare minimum. And so translate that to life, we quiet quit on life all the time, where we just do the bare minimum, where we just do enough to get by, where we do, you know, so obviously at work, it's maybe more obvious. You go to work, but you don't try to develop relationships with anybody. You have work friends where you know, we're friends at work, but I don't invest emotionally into them. And so we have all these fun moments and things at work, but I don't even know if they're married, you know, right. Like, and then, you know, in marriage, like quiet quitting is when you stop having the hard conversations. It's when you just kind of get into the motions and you don't pursue your spouse. And friendship, it's when you settle for just surface level relationship and surface level conversation. And in our spiritual lives, it's when we stop pursuing God. It's when we just kind of say, like, church is good. I like church. You know, I'm going to go to church because it feels good. I know it's what I'm supposed to do. But we don't put in the effort to like know God. We don't put in the effort to live on mission. We don't put the effort into reaching the lost and sharing the gospel and reading the Bible because we want to know God, not because we feel like it's a box to check. So I think like quiet quitting is what I believe is one of the greatest temptations to spiritual life and one of the greatest temptations to each and every one of us right now. And part of what I discovered in writing of the book became like a heart song that I didn't realize was there, of like, I want to help people stop quiet quitting, like to just kind of drift and become stagnant and just believe that like what I have is enough. And there's this idea called acedia, which is just basically like anywhere but here. It just means like you're there, but you're not. And I want to help people wake up from that existence of like, I'm here, but emotionally I'm not, spiritually I'm not, relationally I'm not.
Right. Yeah. Well, and with this whole idea of developing resilience, I think there's also, it's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that you just get good at right away. It takes time. It takes, like, it's funny listening to you talk about developing resilience and like not trying hard things because you didn't want to fail. Because as long as I've known you, you've been like writing this book and you've, stepped out on your own and you have developed the resilience. But that took a long time to get there. And so we always do a challenge with our podcast, and we want to make this practical. And I think especially with developing resilience, it starts with small resilience and kind of growing it as a muscle in your life and getting used to the resistance of it and pushing past it before you end up having to be resilient to like bigger things.
Yeah. Well, even before we get into the challenge, just like as we lead into the challenge, next week we talk about everyday resilience, and there will be a challenge in relation to that. But also this week, a part of this, as I was thinking about it, was that whole idea. There's a section in the book that is basically about I'm getting better at failing, like, which is an oxymoron. It's like, wait, you're getting better at losing, and that's just something that I've been really like conscious of, is like, I want to get there quicker. And so for instance, a big part of that journey for me is we made the leap. We moved to New Jersey. We worked with a nonprofit there. There was so much uncertainty with that. Like in the moment, it was very like, this is the job, but we don't know how this is going to shape. It was working for Carson. He was playing football at a high level, but that's not guaranteed either. And so I think there was like a level of, we could do this and end up not where we want to be. And that's kind of what happened in some ways. Like things in his life and his career, which if you haven't listened to his episode is really great because he talks about some of just like that. How do you stay in purpose when you aren't where you thought you'd be? So that was happening in his life, and it affected other people in the sense that our nonprofit struggled, and I was kind of the first domino to fall, and I lost that job. And I would say I could have avoided all of that by not saying yes in the first place to something that was uncertain, that required sacrifice, that required us to leave everything we knew and go somewhere new. But I'm so grateful it happened. And what happened in that time was learning how to reframe failure. And so that's what today's challenge is today's challenge is called the failure reframe. And so it's not about pushing harder, and I hope that's what people don't pick up from this, is just like, don't quit, don't give up. It's more than that. But what we want you to do is take 10 to 15 minutes today and write down one failure that you still carry. So one failure that you still hold on to, that you still think about. But now think about what it taught you, how it strengthened you, and how it shaped you. So all this will be in the show notes that you can kind of look at. But resilience grows when we reinterpret our story, and perseverance is built one step at a time. So as we reframe failure, we just want to invite you to take one failure and to really invite God into it and just say, God, what can I learn from this? And if you've never done that, this is going to be really healing, because you're going to realize that God works all things out for the good of those who love him. You're going to realize that how God used Joseph, what you meant for harm, God is using for good. Like he can bring good out of bad. And so that's what our hope is for this challenge.
Yeah, and I think we're really excited for everyone to hear like Jason's episode too, because we kind of did like the fly overview of the whole idea of developing resilience, but he really talks about lightening your load and what that looks like and how to do that. Yeah,
for sure. So tune in next week, and also with the challenge, if you don't already, you can actually join the challenge where we send it to your inbox, but also the broadcast channel is just a place where we're trying to build, where this is just kind of what happens. We talk about it and we do it in community. And so if you haven't done that yet, join that. Also, just a couple little notes before we go. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, follow so that you get notifications sent to you. Check your notifications and turn them on just so that you don't miss any episodes, and leave a rating or review. If you like this podcast, share it with somebody. We just really appreciate it. We really hope that this is a blessing to people, where we can help have conversations that wake us up, because I know that it doesn't happen just by reading a book. It happens by continually putting it in front of us, having conversations, and moving forward in that. So we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we can't wait to see you again real soon. Thanks for hanging out again, Megan.
Of course, every time.
Every time, all the time. But no, seriously, thanks for listening, everybody. Adventure is closer than you think, and we can't wait to see you next time.